Hello and welcome to this week's Industry Bulletin. Today we're out at Benzina Zero and I'll let Ben introduce himself and tell us a little bit about your business.
Cheers, I'm Ben Silver and I'm actually one of the co-founders and co-CEO of Benzina Zero, and we provide a range of e-mobility vehicles and e-bikes, e-scooters and e-moto.
Excellent. Now, very topical for us to be out here off the back of a parliamentary inquiry that is current. So we were at the hearing last week representing NTAQ and its members. So Ben, tell us what really is the issue here around e-micromobility in Queensland?
I think there's a number of issues here, and obviously there's a lot of these parliamentary inquiries actually happening around the country as we speak. So this is not just a Queensland-based issue, but here in Queensland, there's been a lot of submissions around people feeling unsafe around e-mobility. People realise they're important vehicles to have, but just some controls need to be put in place. Some of that could be around the actual product type itself, and definitely the behaviour that's being exhibited on these vehicles.
Absolutely. And just on behaviour, because it was something that was really prominent in our submission at MTAQ, why do you think it encourages, or what would limit or enhance better behaviour on these devices?
Obviously, having people being able to, be visible in terms of being able to do the wrong thing, that could be through some sort of way to register the vehicle in terms of some sort of identification plate to hold people accountable for what they're doing. Like on a car we were speaking about before, you could have a car that is a legal car, but you can still speed, but your behaviour can be reported. Now, what we want to do is have people accountable for what they're actually doing. And this could be on bike paths, this could be actually riding on the road and all these things where they shouldn't be, and people should be accountable for that.
Absolutely true, because without that identification piece, you can't even report bad behaviour, let alone enforce any action as a result of it. So that was key in ours as well.
Absolutely. It creates evidence and it allows people, the general public, to be able to report these sort of things.
And
if it's an issue.
Hopefully to temper some of that behaviour as well, if there was a consequence.
Absolutely, absolutely. Being anonymous is definitely a massive driver of these issues.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about what you think the federal government could do, for example, on putting a stop to some of the types of product coming into Australia.
Oh, there's a lot of conversations around stricter border controls, and actually ensuring that e-bikes specifically go back onto the road vehicle system where they're actually registered, where you need to bring them through with a proper permit. There's a lot of those sort of conversations happening now. I don't know exactly where the federal government's going to sit on this. There's been private members' bills brought to the federal parliament before, and they have shown no real interest in this space at the moment. But definitely that there's a whole bunch of stakeholders that happen through this whole process. There's people who are selling these vehicles, there's people who are buying these vehicles, sometimes not for the people who are actually riding them. So I think at every single level, people have to have some level of responsibility.
And what sort of impact do you think education or awareness plays? I mean, at the moment, the media is educating people about the dangers, but more so as a result of fatalities or accidents or different things. Do you think there is an education awareness piece required for these particular devices?
I think absolutely. And that could lead back into the conversation around the key stakeholder. Could be a parent buying an e-bike for a child. Now, that parent might be getting guidance from the child about what they want to get, but the parent might not actually have the understanding of where that actually sits into the legal framework. So that's where it's really important to have the education, but then you've got to have some level of behavioural, not repercussion, but the behavioural awareness as well.
And I think that would be true. A lot of parents are buying these devices for children. Sometimes it is an ease of pressure for them about drop-offs to different things or sporting commitments or all those things. But we find there's a lot of confusion in market about age limits, about who can actually ride a lot of these devices as well.
Absolutely. And also there's some language which really needs to change. So we hear the term e-bike used way too often, because there's a lot of things in actually e-motorcycles that called e-bikes. And when we have better clarification of terms, that can also help from an education perspective.
Excellent. Now, I know you're already involved in a lot of the stakeholder agreements, I think, or meetings that are going on with consultation, but I think there are some really common themes throughout this hearing, not just in Queensland, but throughout the other states. Some of them we've already mentioned around behaviour or identification or stopping them from coming in the first place. Is there anything else that you think would be really helpful?
I think that this country would really benefit from homologation rules in every state and territory, so we had some consistency. There's a bunch of rules that are coming around e-mobility safety in New South Wales, and then Melbourne and Victoria's made their own recommendation, and they're just separate. And this is the problem. When we create more divisions per state, it becomes more difficult for people like us as an OEM or provider to then ensure that we have a compliance for each different state. It applies cost to us, and we have to do this over and over and over again. It becomes really challenging. If it's simpler for everyone in terms of the importer, distributor, reseller and purchaser, you're going to get better consistency of people following the rules. because then they're only playing to one set of rules as opposed to every rule in every state.
Absolutely. And what about infrastructure? Like for legal devices in an imperfect world with identification or some different things around it, is there any infrastructure needed for these particular devices?
In terms of visibility for people in their behaviour, is that what you mean?
No, just generally, like we talk about, you know, the comm games or different events or Olympic games where it might be part of the solution for first and last mile transport options. Do you see that they need to build any extra infrastructure, or is it more that it's bike paths, bikeways, all of these things that are already set in there from an infrastructure point of view about where these devices are allowed to be ridden?
I guess it's like everything. The more that any vehicle or device is used and it becomes more popular, you're going to have better infrastructure for it. You know, we see expansion of highways because the use of that becomes heavier and we need more infrastructure, and it will be the same thing with e-bikes. I guess definitely more infrastructure also encourages people. So if you think about people commuting on an e-bike or an e-device, if you've got safer modes of transport or ways to transport yourself from A to B, and that could be through a bikeway, that's going to then potentially increase the uptake because you've got these safer mechanisms. So yeah, absolutely, infrastructure is important.
And there's certainly big benefits to e-micromobility. Do you want to share some of what you think are big benefits of these particular devices?
Well, cost effectiveness is definitely one of those. We've also got an amazing climate here in Brisbane, right? We have just come out of a wonderful winter period. We're into spring. It's obviously a wonderful time to get around. In summer, it's hot and sweaty and Brisbane's hilly, so we can get around and move simply without having to be sweaty and uncomfortable. So there's that benefit. But the other thing is they're fun. Like, let's not take away from what they are. They are actually fun.
Excellent. Any final comments, Sam?
Look, e-mobility is here to stay. We just need to make sure that everyone does the right thing. And I think it's only going to be of a benefit to our city and our state.
Excellent. So keep an eye out on any further developments. Of course, you'll pick those up in the weekly bulletin. Thank you.
Thank you.